Before I dive into giving an analysis of the rework, for people who don't know, I thought I'd say a little bit about myself. I'm Mazrim. I was the only Katarina main to reach Master Tier in Season 5, and as you can see in that picture, I have played a lot of Cat. So this is coming from just giving you some background if you haven't been following my videos for a long time, that I definitely main Cat, so my opinions, I hope, would have more weight. So, yeah, if you're not impressed enough, you can have a look at the statue and poster I have of Cat, just if you're not convinced yet of my dedication. Ah, God, that's sad. Anyway, let's looking at this rework. Okay, here is the thread for Katarina. This is, remember the PBE, but so they always say this will all be subject to change, but 99% of the time, what goes up in the PBE gets pushed live, especially as they've been talking about this sort of direction for quite a while. Now, I've been following this entire mini rework of Cat with not the most positive view, because every time they talk about her, they include buzzwords like counterplay and giving opponents more time to react, which, you know, is really an unpopular way of balancing champions. If you think about how they've nerfed champions like Zed and LeBlanc in the past, where they reverted it slightly on LeBlanc, but it just meant that it just made her W really slow, or Zed can't blink back to his ult shadow. Those are just really unpopular changes for players of those champions. It just makes the champion feel slow, and it's just a general feel bad nerf. So, and we're getting on to what they're going to do with Cat. Now, I am actually fairly optimistic overall, I guess, after reading this. What I'm really worried about is champions like Katarina fill a niche of countering some of the insane amounts of ways that Riot has put in the game to counter anyone actually dying. Cat can kill Kindred, can kill Tahm Kench, or whoever Tahm Kench is trying to save before people have time to react. And really, these sort of champions that they're reworking, it's in some way it's fair to call them unhealthy because they can insta-gib you, but I think that it's sort of balanced by how impossible it is to kill someone like an AD carry once they have all these different Staracs and QSS swords to constantly save them. So they're definitely looking to slow down how fast Cat kills people. They don't want Cat to just QWE one ult tick, one shot someone. So counterplay is the scary word when it comes to balancing Cat for Cat mains, as you can easily make Cat unidentifiable as the blinking all around the map assassin. What they haven't mentioned, well, they have mentioned it, they're keeping her resets. Fundamentally, that's great. It's always a bit scary, you'd think, because the resetting mechanic is always hard to balance, that they'd be lazy and just get rid of that. But they're keeping that, that's great. They're getting rid of her W. W, while her most boring skill, there is kind of a lot of skill in knowing the range of it properly, using it to lanes like Diana. You might max W first to be able to survive laning phase, just staying slightly out of their auto attack range, poking them down with W. So I'll be interested to see how laning phase is. This feels like it could make Cat's awful laning phase even worse, which is what they're really trying to avoid, to be honest. You'll have to see. Because what they're not doing is giving Cat any way to sustain at all here. It's still going to be the fundamental problem of Cat as a melee champion in mid lane. I really hope they don't force her into top lane. But yeah, the fundamental problem, Cat's a melee champion in mid lane. She's manless, so it makes it a little more hard to balance. But you've got to work out what is a fair amount of sustained damage for her to put out. Can she stay in lane with boots 4 potions is generally the answer to this. So laning and interactions, want to make Cat more dynamic in lane. Now, the way they've done that is Cat will stay, throw her Q, it'll stay on the ground. and when jumping into it, it will fully repun Shunpo's cooldown. I see this playing out in either two ways. It's either going to be super obnoxious, where she jumps onto you, then jumps back to a ward or a minion or something, and you've just taken some harass, which makes it more meaningful, or it's going to be really feel bad for Cat. She jumps in, she gets ganked and dies constantly. It's look at maybe old Talon's laning phase pattern. His laning phase is awful because if he jumps in, it's pretty all in. He's either going to die or kill them, which kind of similar for Cat, but Cat's now losing her speed boost and damage reduction on Shunpo. So you can't W then run back away to do quick trades. Shunpoing to daggers. What this says to me is they're going to look to remove ward jumps, which is kind of sad to be honest, because it removes a lot of the skilled players you can do, dodging skill shots with ward hopping, always carrying a pink around of you. It's pretty lame to be honest, but I can see why it's problematic in that you always have an escape, but I think that's one of the core identities of Cat. I'm going to be pretty disappointed if they do end up removing the ward jumping. Deal massive AoE damage, but someone has to be standing on the dagger. This is their way of balancing Cat, it seems like, which I don't like the sound of. Sounds more like Cat will be more a noob stomp champion. Wow, you stood on the Cat dagger, GG, report noob. And I also guess fundamentally, now you need to wait for the Q cast time and travel time to land before you Shunpo on them. That's the main way they're slowing down Cat's combo here. Previously, you pressed Q and you blink to them. Then you did sort of have to wait a little bit to then press W to proc it, but it's going to be much, much slower Cat's combo if you have to wait for the Q to land and then jump on them. So you're not going to have these crazy bouncing all around pentakills within fractions of a second anymore, which is kind of sad, as that's part of Cat's core identity, I think. Which is kind of I don't know, a questionable identity, but it still makes you miss something about what Cat is currently. And this extra stuff. Shunpo to anywhere around the unit. It's marginal. I doubt this will be much of a big deal, to be honest. Depends how accurate it is. This is already sort of the case. You can decide whether you jump to one side of them or the other. That kind of meh seems how it'll work out. And your Q dagger always drops. What? And always takes the time to bounce to the ground after the first hit. So the real problem here is Cat's going to throw a dagger, and unless they're isolated, that dagger's going to bounce away somewhere random off some minions or some other champions, and then all of her damage, which is now on her W, isn't going to be able to land on your original target. So yeah, try to trick shot Q daggers. So this means if an AD carry is slightly out of position, or you want to flash on top of someone, then when you throw your Q to them, it's not going to actually kill them. We'll have to see how this actually works out, but this feels very counterplay-y, and I use that as a bad buzzword in that sense, because you just can't kill anyone. You're going to have to rely on bouncing it around and then jumping on someone else. Not sure about that one. But anyway, let's look at the Riot comment. Any Riot comments? Her E now leaves a red streak. Ugh. Could look cool, depends on the visuals they make. All her abilities got VFX and audio touch-ups. It's kind of disappointed they didn't update her model. Her hair still looks awful. Just one solid piece. They can use the RE tail technology in the hair or something. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope I give you a decent rundown on my opinions on this rework. So, in conclusion, I'm staying optimistic at the moment, but it definitely feels like Riot is going overboard on compensating for really bad players who are salty about Cat jumping around their teammates to killing them because they fed her in lane. Cat's pattern of notoriously infamous pattern of just face desking the keyboard and getting a pentakill just is really rare, generally only even when you're smurfing. So I think Riot may be going too far on, like, what the hell is this stuff? Your Q Dagger always, you can't even get someone isolated. Like, this is my main problem with this rework. Um, Dagger stays on the ground, massive AoE damage. This implies if they're putting massive AoE damage on it, they're going to take damage out of the rest of her kit to compensate for it. So, I don't know, you're going to be looking at Echo ult level of precision, which you have to rely on the enemy's stupidity rather than good positioning, which is always a really feel bad thing and will keep Cat from being viable in really high elos, even more so. Like, you don't really see people playing full AP Echo in high elo. They're always playing tank Echo with further battle and Triforce to abuse base damages and stuff, not rely on people being stupid enough to walk into his ult. So we'll have to see about that. Anyway, thanks for watching.